What's up, everybody? I'm back, and this time I brought Doni Brass. He is our SVP of Community and Product, SVP of Product and Community. Donnie is going to tell you a lot more about what he does and how he's done it. And he is an amazing person to speak to. He knows how to communicate, one of the great communicators in our industry, to be honest with you, which is why he's in that community role today. And you're going to love this interview. You're going to get a lot about like how Guardz was built, why and how we decide to do certain things that we do. AI in the Guardz platform, how is it, and what is it, and like where is it going? A lot of questions are going to get answered. Donnie does such a great job, and so guys, I think you're going to love this one. Of course, full interview is going to be on the YouTube. You'll see the preview here on the LinkedIn. If you have any questions for Donnie, drop it in the comments. He's reading. So see you. Hey, Donnie, thank you for being here. Super excited that you could be here. Really thankful that you took a time out of your busy day. We were just talking before the call about how many hats you wear here at Guardz.
Sure.
I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. I'm not going to say your title. I'm going to let you say your title. I don't think I remembered the full title. Please let everybody know who you are.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for the intro. So Doni Brass, I'm the Senior VP of Product Strategy and Community. Big mouthful, like you were making fun of me earlier. But yeah, it's a fun role for me. I come from a product background, so I've been building software and even before that hardware, fiber optic products for a long time now. I've worked at companies that a lot of MSPs know and love or hate, depending on their perspective. But I built LogMe and Rescue back in the day, and I was with Cisco Umbrella for a bunch of years. So the MSP space is something I'm familiar with. But actually coming into Guardz and being able to lead the product team initially and build out that product here has been a real joy to really be focused on the MSP world, and that's a lot of the fun that we're trying to bring into the work that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the job you've done has been amazing. I mean, I've seen the product. Been blessed to be here from the around the beginning stages, April 2023, kind of really right after the launch. And what the product's growth from then to now has been, I mean, dude, we've released so many new features and product, items that are just really taking over. How do you decide what the product philosophy at Guardz is going to be? How do you prioritize what to do next?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's a big question, right?
Right.
We have our product strategy, our product vision, or whatever. But if you're really talking about like a philosophy of a prioritization, I would tie it something. I would really tie it to a customer centric approach. We pride ourselves in taking the time to understand MSP needs, right? That doesn't just mean because we're a security platform, what do MSPs need for security? We also try to understand and look at them as a business, and that there are business needs that go hand in hand with just giving giving the security capabilities. So I would say it's really knowing our ICP, our MSP customer base, and to build really towards their business, not just the features and functionality.
Okay. Okay. Would you say we have like a North Star when it comes to like building that you're like, okay, like we're going to aim in this direction. We're focusing on the user centric, the MSP. Is that the North Star? Do you have another one?
Yeah, I mean, our North Star in many ways, and this is from our founders, Dor Eisner and Alon Levy, and they really set out on a mission to secure small and medium-sized businesses, right? That was really the motivating factor. How do we bring security to this underserved market, right? And where the need is growing significantly. So there's a North Star that's buried within that. It's like if we determined and we learned early on that MSPs are the key to making that happen, right? So we're committed to leading MSPs into that sort of that I would call it like the AI revolution, and to leverage technology to make that happen. But at the end of the day, security is only as good as the ability to operationalize it. So
Right.
that for me, in many cases, when we're thinking about like what to build and the platform, where our platform is going, we're really thinking about that operational efficiency and how to help MSPs execute on a real security package. Because without that, it's a lot on paper, but not in reality.
A lot of MSPs tell me like, oh, like This is great. I understand the need for this. I understand how this is going to increase us operationally, but how do I translate that to my SMB, right? Like
Mm,
how is Guards also deciding like, okay, yes, we want to give the tool to the MSP to be successful, but we also want to align ourselves with what the SMB's needs and priorities are and what they're thinking of. So how do you figure out both of those? You're kind of serving two markets,
mm.
no?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I think we want to innovate, and
Mhm.
innovation is fun, but
Mhm.
delivering that practical, down-to-earth security that's tangible and that's also rewarding, right? When you see that the security it's working, it's protecting clients, that this is
Mhm.
really where it's going. So innovation, I would even say, is part of our DNA and a
Mhm.
large part of the motivation for the creation of Guards. But you have to first build trust and partnerships in the channel to be able to execute on the vision, right? So we have to deliver that practical stuff that serves the SMB needs. And the SMB needs often have nothing to do with security, right? They want to be secure, but they're not, no one's asking necessarily for security. They're asking to check the box of compliance or of to help them get insurance or to help avoid them losing their business. And security is a key component to that, right?
Right, right. And thinking innovation, I always the hot topic button that comes to my mind is AI, right?
Sure.
And like how do we not become a buzzword with AI into
Mm.
what the Guards platform is doing? How do we differentiate between like real versus hype?
Yeah, it's moving so fast. It's a tough question to answer, right? I think there's a lot of hype today around the concept of autopilot, right? The idea that you can just turn something on and it goes and it solves all your problems and you can go and focus on other things that you would rather be focusing on. That's the promise that we haven't fully seen delivered yet. And that promise even goes back, decades with, chatbots and things like that. So we're still not there yet, although I can't imagine that we're not going to get there, like at the pace we're at now. But I think autopilot is currently hype, and the gap is closing fast. But Copilot, human in the loop co-piloting, that approach, that concept, that's proving itself over and over, right? Maybe the term co-pilot's overhyped. Maybe the term human in the loop is becoming a little buzzwordy. But the truth is that those the most practical AI use cases are coming, from that direction, right? So where humans and AI come together.
Okay. And so what is there anything specific like I'm gonna just throw this out there like how would you say Guards is utilizing AI in a co-pilot mechanism today for the Guards platform? If you
Hmm.
could share specifics, you can. If you can't, that's fine.
Yeah, I talk about AI a lot. It's something, of course, I used in my work. I use it in my personal life, and I think Guards has really adopted an AI first approach in how we operate as a company. I would say in the platform, in the product itself, there's 3 or 4 areas of AI that we execute on. So one is generative AI, right? The most common use case that people are using today in their work, whether it's ChatGPT or other things, other LLMs. We use generative AI for things in our product. We use it for like AI insights, right? So if you have a large number of detections, it can summarize and point you in the right direction. We have that at a click of a button. We
Right.
use it to explain some of the more complex detections that we come up with. So reasons and explanations are throughout our detection metadata. Even on the end user side, when we're notifying an end user about something, an employee about something, often there's a reason to explain it that's AI generated. We also have phishing simulations that are AI generated, right? So that you can spin things up on the fly based on who you want to target, and it just makes it really easy to do things at scale. So that's kind of like the most common stuff and the most front-facing stuff. But behind the scenes, we're using AI in lots of different ways. So we have AI research agents. So our research and threat hunting team, they're an essential part of what Guards does, right? Like all of the technological, all the stuff that's feeding into our ability to secure our customers and really against modern threats. That's dependent on the research and threat hunting team to come up and discover those. So they're researching what's out there in the wild, and then they're attacking the large data sets of logs and things like that we're pulling in from our customer base. And
Right.
for a human to do that would take so many hours. But for these
Right.
AI agents to do that, it happens in seconds. So they're able to scale in a way that even a year ago would have been impossible with these research agents.
Mhm.
In our sort of workflows, end-to-end workflows of triage and incidents and things like that, we use agentic triage, right? So there's tons of detections, a lot of noise in those detections. Before it reaches a human, we do some agentic triage, right? So the agentic AI goes and basically just filters out what it identifies as false positives. And on top of that, use it to enrich so that when those users, when the actual MDR experts and analysts are receiving a report, it's fully enriched again with what would otherwise be hours of research, third-party tools, analysis, et cetera, all brought together. That's really important. And then directionally, A to A, agent to agent is becoming hugely popular, and it's going to be a huge part of what we do going forward.
Yeah, that's great. There's so many areas that we're using AI in, and I got to see a firsthand experience. Eli Shlomo recently
Yeah.
ran a report for me on a prospect, and I shared with him the report. We did some threat hunting for him to kind of show him a little bit of the capabilities of the SOC that we have now. And man, the data that they were able to pull up and the reporting that was able to come of that for me was just, it was impressive. Like I was
Hmm.
a little shocked. I was a little shocked. What would you
Yeah.
say though in regards to, okay, here we are in a state where like we're evolving the product, we're using AI. Is there for the I've had conversations with some MSPs who are saying, hey man, like I don't necessarily trust what AI is gonna do, like or where AI is pulling data, right? Like
Hmm.
so what would you say to somebody that's, not sure about, AI and what are the risk factors with AI today in the platform?
Yeah, I think, look, the mental risk that
Mhm.
people are facing is that if you get burned once, you start to slow down your adoption of these technologies. And the risk there is that you fall behind your competitors, right? And that comes from software development side of things, that comes from the MSP side of things, right? MSPs rely heavily on their ability to offer a great service. Part of that is the customer service and the human element, but a large part of that is also how the systems are operationalized and running. And if they're slowing down their adoption of AI, guarantee there's a competitor who's coming through the pipeline who can do more than you with less technicians, and try to differentiate themselves in that way. So you're going to find yourself competing, against these early adopters and people who are figuring out how to leverage the technology. So I think the risk is that if you've gotten burned, you're slowing down your adoption. And on our side, of course, there's a risk of over adoption, but that's why we're keeping human in the loop, and I think that's how we offset that.
But you don't, in your mind, you don't feel like there's a data risk or a risk of, let's say, AI doing something on its own, right? You don't have that thought.
Not from the doomsday
Okay.
perspective or
Right,
anything like
right,
that.
right.
There's definitely a data risk. I mean, we all have to be, super focused on the potential for AI as an attack vector, right? And that's
Mhm.
not just AI being used to make attacks, but actually attackers leveraging the fact that they know companies are using AI. You can inject prompts. What did I see recently? It was like an email with a hidden prompt in it, so that if you ran your AI summary on it, it was actually triggering all kinds of things. Like this is there's real risk in there, and I think we're all adapting and adjusting to these technologies, and we're seeing um, AI security tools, meaning security to protect against AI, right? To protect against these vulnerabilities within AI are becoming more and more important.
Okay. Back to a product question. When
Sure.
we're thinking about scaling guards and we're growing guards, I mean,
Mm.
I've seen the product grow so fast. How do you determine like, between like, okay, this is going to help guards scale, and then also like we're just trying to keep things simple and focused, right? Like this is what we do.
Mm.
How do you decide between that and a product?
Look, it's a resource challenge, like
Mhm.
as it is for everyone, right? And anyone who's in business understands this challenge, right? We want to do everything. We got lots of directions that we want to run, but staying focused on what's most impactful, what's most essential to our business. This is really what matters. The platform itself needs to be, you use the word simple, but I would say accessible, right? It needs to, in a broad reach for MSPs of all sizes and growing at different speeds. So scale becomes a factor there. But to me, scale is a technology problem that can usually be addressed through thoughtful architecture and allocation of those resources in the right way. Whereas simplicity, as you put it, or accessibility is really a product challenge that requires us to stay close to our customers, understand their real needs, read between the lines of what, of what matters. We take a very like, build, measure, learn approach to the product. So it's like, build a slice of what we believe brings value, get that feedback before we start iterating on it to bring more value, right? And if you do that, execute on that right, then customers appreciate it and feel it.
Right. And that leads me to my next question is like,
Sure.
what feedback are we taking from MSPs
Mm.
when it comes to building guards, and like how are we how are we ingesting that data too? Like how is that done?
Yeah. So tools, to be honest with you, right? Like, I mean,
More
of course
tools.
of course we count on conversations that are happening with our salespeople, with our customer success teams, and written feedback that's coming through whether it's a Reddit forum or a Slack channel, or right, there's all these different directions that the data is coming from, and AI ends up being one of the great answers to that, which is that if you're using the right tools, and I can certainly recommend a few if you're looking for specifics. I think Miro launched a great product called Miro Insights. It's another one
Mhm.
called Canny. These types of tools integrate directly into they integrate directly into your other systems to look at that data to aggregate it in a way that's more consumable and to summarize things in a way where you can extract insights from it. So using those right tools helps us do those types of things at scale because it's tough. I mean, the product feedback loop is one of the biggest challenges I think product managers face in general, and something that we're always trying to improve on.
And you mentioned it just prior. Is how do you how is it a symbiotic relationship between product, sales, marketing, like all these teams? Like, how would you say is it like how do you create that collaboration that creates a very successful product growth?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's collaboration and partnership with, internally that really treats the voice of the customer as a really valuable asset, right? I understand that every conversation a salesperson has with a customer, if they can articulate a learning from that or feedback from that, that's gold, right? That's the stuff we need to figure out how to mine and to capture that. So Guards has grown a lot. When I started, there were a dozen and a half of us, and we could easily just sit across the table from each other and throw around ideas and hear feedback. Now as a larger organization, we have to capture that feedback in more structured and organized ways. But I think it's still at the end of the day, it's being open and collaborative. And if you use Slack, create dedicated Slack channels for it. If you use if you have regular scheduled Zoom meetings, focus, listen, take the time to listen, not just, it's bi-directional feedback. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, yeah, I think you guys exemplify that. We have a meeting we do between all three teams, right? That's
Sure.
led by one of our account executives, right? It's an initiative that, our leadership has empowered every person to kind of, find their place where they could provide value, right? And
Yeah.
grow their skill. And I think that's such a beautiful thing about the culture of Guards. Can you tell us a story out in the wild with an MSP that you recall of like guards like really, stopping maybe an attack or maybe just somebody's business just growing in a way that really, benefited them and their customers? Do you have a story that you can tell us off the top of your mind at all? Or, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't prepare one specifically, but I think I've seen enough of them that I can pull one out. So let's see. So from like a pure, I guess, security perspective, we have, as we recently launched our ITDR functionality. So this was something where we had a pretty long beta period, right? We even had some early access, towards the beginning of the year with some of our very early adopters. But as we launched ITDR, the volume at the beginning, the volume of detections was quite high. So we had to figure out how to kind of filter through that and reduce the noise, because reducing the noise was the key to letting this value kind of hit these customers. You have too many false positives, too much alert fatigue, the value goes out the window, right? Even if you're discovering real stuff. And I know that one of our early adopters had a very, very key customer of his that he was prospecting to. So he was trying to bring them on board. They were in a sort of trial phase with them. And we discovered a real-time attack underway. It was using OAuth tokens. So there was a type of code injection for the token theft. And we discovered that along with a series of other detections of suspicious logins from a user agent that we hadn't seen before. So we had benchmarked this customer for about 30 days prior. So we were able to see what the normal behaviors was and then the deviation from that behavior. The detection itself was great because it validated that we had some some good logic in place that would bubble these things up. We didn't at the time, we didn't even have a good kind of in platform alert based on it, right? So the email went out to the customer, but also it went to our MDR team. And that's where the magic really started to happen with the MDR team. So the MDR team, and again, this was in the early stages of our launch, right? But prior to the official, general availability. So they got to really take this and to show off what they had been working on. It was, I think, within 3 minutes of detection, they had eyes on it, right? So it had gone through its AI sort of triage flow, had been enriched with a whole bunch of data. So they're looking at a report of exactly what happened. Customer had inputted already, like their contact information and preferences. So they picked up the phone, got that customer on the call, where it was able to, point to the exact threat, get them on board, educate them on exactly what happened. They looped in their customer, like in real time with our MDR team, because they wanted to show the power of this service that they were bringing. And we're able to isolate the user, actually suspend the user and isolate a device. They did both. And then in real time, do a bit more of an investigation, see that where the vulnerability was coming from. I think all in all, it took almost 24 hours to, they wiped the device. They went forensically through all the details to make sure that it hadn't moved laterally or spread anywhere else. And then at the end of the day, they mitigated the threat. It hadn't spread. It was localized. It was a persistent foothold type of attack. So there was an account compromise, and they were seems like they were getting ready to lay low. They'd done some changes, I think, to mailbox rules or some other things as well. But they caught it pretty early and were able to stop that spread.
Man, yeah, because it's those ones that lay low that you don't realize that when they get you big, right? Like
Yeah.
they could be stealing, they could get in between actual financial transactions and really cause some serious damage. That's awesome. And that was all in our beta.
That was all about. And look, the technology part of it is really cool. The automations and like the fact that the system caught it and stuff. But the magic for me is that like MDR expert who actually knows what to do next, knows how to handle it, knows how to guide them through all kinds of incident support. And that was really cool to kind of listen back on those calls and to review what happened step by step after the fact.
Right. No, for sure. And it's like, I know we haven't fully defined like, hey, we're going to level 3 triage your incident that occurs, right? In a sort of way. But like, would you say our team is available for an MSP to use? Because I've seen that. I've just seen
Yeah.
where we've, gotten involved with an MSP and not really drew a line where like, well, hey, here's the data, like good luck. I
Sure.
feel like I've just consistently seen us, step up and help.
Yeah, look, officially, as far as our SLA goes,
Mm,
our MDR offering includes, triage, analysis, and what we call incident support, right?
mm,
We don't in our SLA go as far as incident response, right? That's a service offering on its own, and in my mind, it's the responsibility of the MSP, wiping devices, restoring from backups, like the full end-to-end flow. But it doesn't mean that they know exactly how to do it in every situation, right? So incident response involves a plan of action as well. Hopefully, most MSPs have that in place and are thinking that way, bigger picture. But having an expert like our Guardz MDR team on the line to help walk you through what are the Microsoft settings, what are the configurations, what was anything changed, how can we check the logs, which logs should we look at, how do we harden this a little bit more? Because we're dealing with this intense situation, maybe some conditional access policies or some other configurations on a device, even to lock things down a bit more. Having that support, that expert support, I think it's what MSPs need. I mean, yes, you want the security platform working for you, but you also want that 24/7 expertise a phone call away, right?
Mhm.
So that is also something I believe very deeply in, and will continue to scale within our offering.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I think you've done such a great job, and I'm excited to be about a part of Guards. Your personal story a bit. Let's get into Donnie. Like, how did you decide? Did you wake up one day and say, VP of product, here I am, like this is what I want to do? Like, how did you end up in this role? And are you like what gets you, are you motivated to continue to grow in this role? Like what does that look like for you?
Yeah, that's great. Good question. I mean, I've been doing product management for, I don't know, 17, 18 years now. I fall into a category of what's called an accidental product manager. So I was doing something somewhat different, and I sort of had to become the product expert to do my job well, and was given the opportunity to say, hey, define your role. Back then, there was a nice white paper by Toyota around, they called it the product line manager, and lean product management, for product line managers. And that was my inspiration to say, okay, that's what I am. I'm a product line manager, right? I was in the hardware space at the time. That moved to fiber optics, and eventually to B2B SaaS. I love building things. I should have been a carpenter or something with my hands, but I love building things. I love building software. And I've had a fun opportunities internationally. I lived in Boston. I lived in Amsterdam. I now live in Tel Aviv. So I've had this international career, and working with engineers and experts in all different fields that have been my inspiration. And I love the startup space because the possibilities are endless, and we get to really connect with and talk with our customers. Moving to MSPs from more the enterprise world has also been awesome, because there's just so much, when you're working with an owner operator, there's skin in the game, right? So you really can build that relationship, build that connection, and help the MSP feel their impact also on the product. So that's been exciting for me. The shift I've made, if you remember, at the beginning you asked me to
Yep.
introduce myself with my title.
I'm gonna ask
So
you that next.
product
Yep.
strategy and community is because I've shifted a little bit more to a let's call it like an outbound role,
Mhm.
where I want to drive the product strategy based on what I'm learning and hearing from the community, right? I'm trying to stay close to the peer groups and the different forums where MSPs are meeting and gathering and sharing ideas already, and take
Mhm.
those ideas back into Guards as a company and to the product more directly.
Right. How does that, how is that? Are you comfortable with this? Did you do anything previously that had you places where you were doing outbound type work where you were speaking with customers consistently and things like that and being almost a product evangelist? Did you have a role like that previously?
So fortunately, the product management roles that I've had in my career have been a nice blend of inbound and outbound, right? I've always found that nice balance, and enjoyed that to kind of enjoy both worlds. And I think, it's a combination for me now of this is a learning opportunity to expand into different areas, to take on new challenges, and also to crack our the market that Guards is leveraging. Right, we're 100% MSP focused. Right, that not a lot of software vendors say that. Right, like some say they're MSP focused, or they're MSP driven. There's different
Yeah.
terminology you use, but when you're selling purely into the MSP market, and leveraging that in the right way, the channel and the partnerships are a whole nother animal. So
Yeah.
it's been fun for me to learn. I've done a lot of I've been humbled a few times in my learnings, but I've tried to really just listen and show up and be present, and figure out ways that we can contribute and give to the MSP community. So it's not really about what we can get out of it. It's really about what we can give and what we can learn.
Thank you. I appreciate. Thank you so much for joining me today. I
Yeah.
really appreciate you and getting to know you, and where Guards is going, and just like what your experience has been like so far as leading our product. I think people are gonna love, listening to you and learning more about who is the person behind that's driving this product and this product growth. So thank you for your time today.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Will. Great questions, great conversation, and love to do it again.
Awesome. Talk soon.